This is Jax Journal, an in-depth look at issues that affect you and your community.
Alex Fredericks is a growth engineer and co-founder of ToneWell, which specializes in artificial intelligence and wellness. And we'll tell you all about how he puts the two of those together. So first of all, what is ToneWell?
So ToneWell is a platform that some partners and I have launched. It takes a 30-second sound clip and turns that into a snapshot of your wellness that becomes an actionable report for you to make daily habits and changes so that you can move into a state of well-being.
If I understand this correctly, I'm going to talk into some sort of recording device, and it's going to, I guess, set a level and then determine every day if I'm doing okay?
Sure. So to explain it a bit why it works, and then I can explain the how. So your voice reflects your nervous system and your physiology and how they are operating at all time. You are just broadcasting when you speak. So we extract acoustic and temporal features from sound clips and then map them against very established, very recognized patterns, 20-plus years of research science, not just ours, but best practices from some of the largest institutions and agencies in the world. And then from that, we begin to look at these patterns, and then we translate that into plain English for you to look at and say, oh, I can make these small little steps in my life to feel better, to be better, and to have a more optimized relationship with yourself. That really actually is our mission, is to help people have a better relationship with themselves. And through technology and very established biomarkers and precursors, we're able to take just a 30-second sound clip and give you back a pretty good, robust understanding of what you need to do to have a better path of wellness.
This is so interesting. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of like how this works and why this works, what made you think of doing this in the first place?
So to the introduction you made of me, I consider myself a growth engineer or a problem solver. So I've been in the consumer packaged goods business my entirety of my career. Started in the music business. When I wasn't going to be the president of Sony Records, I went into hardcore consumables like skincare and fragrance and cosmetics. And then the world began to turn, and I moved into thought leaders and gurus and all of the wonderful stuff that you hope is efficacious and makes a difference in people's lives. And along that pathway, I moved into what is now considered kind of wellness technology, from neurofeedback companies and PEMF companies and hyperbarics and all of that wonderful stuff. And along the path, I was introduced to a company that uses autoacoustics in their basic offering to better their technology so that it set itself better to you in their experience. It was a PEMF company called Amp Coil. If anybody's into PEMF, I highly recommend you check out Amp Coil. But with that said, I said, hey, can I meet the scientists? And they said, sure. And the fun thing about scientists is they like to be scientists. So I'm a two-market strategist. They're we can build something better people, like a chocolate and peanut butter moment in life. And I said, let me bring that to the world. And this is actually why. I believe wholly in doctors. I think that it's very important that people get their labs done. But I also know that those are diagnostic tools, meaning you have this going on with you type things. Whilst I believe that if you empower people and give them, the opportunity of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, meaning like little steps get you to the bigger part, then you could have a greater effect on your own wellness and well-being. So when I was introduced to the technology about 2.5 years ago, I said, this is what I want to get behind.
Alex, this kind of represents the very best form of AI and like the most altruistic things associated with AI that we really want to believe in, correct?
It does. So what's interesting here is that it's not just AI, but it's also computer learning. And I'm going to make a little bit of a difference for you here. So computer learning there has 20-plus years of science behind frequency data. And every time a new data set comes together, the computer is able to identify and build its own program and algorithm to better map things. It's not making a conclusion. It's better organizing where the data sets are, because there's tens of thousands of data sets. There's research right now in the medical annals and the journals and NIH and on and on and on. And when you take a huge data set, your computer can learn from it. Then comes AI. And AI is the thing that suggests to you XYZ, which is why people are writing emails with Gemini or ChatGPT, right? It has a big enough identifier, and then it can suggest to you the outcome. So when you take those two things together, the learning that a computer can do, and then the framing that AI can do, it actually does put you in a position where you can have a betterment tool as opposed to an obsolescence tool, which is obviously the other side of the AI conversation. But right now, if you send me a 30-second voice clip, within inside of 5 minutes, you can have back a wellness report. It's not making any assumptions. It's been trained by hardcore science. But what it is actually doing is framing it in the plain English infographic style or paragraph narrative style that we are actually very used to taking in, and it removes the complication. It's what I say when I say deliver plain English. It breaks it down into like little Lego pieces, and you're like, oh, I understand what that is. Versus if I gave you just a raw output of the file, you would scratch your head a bit and say, these are numbers, I don't understand what I'm looking at. So it is what I would like to think is the empowerment side of AI, yes.
But there has to be a more nefarious side if someone else gets access to this information. If I were to use ToneWell today, does anyone else have access to my voice, my wellness statistics, my data?
So that's a wonderful question, and thank you for asking it. My answer to you is no. So I have built this with massive walls in between. So the voice that comes in actually goes through 2 steps before it gets uploaded into a server. Therefore, the person, so to speak, is eliminated and the frequency is not. So it doesn't know that Alex Fredericks has put in a sound file. It knows that there's a sound file of a man. And then when it comes out, again, the data gets bifurcated into multiple ports. One of them goes to the infograph that you'll get in your email and the physical report that comes with it. You get 2 deliverables, one something on the screen that you can literally look at and say, oh, I understand that, and then a document that you can read. Those 2, what's called the CRM in that, are not connected. They are actually purposely, as somebody that's built product for a very long time, I believe in the consumer. It's what keeps us in business. So for me, protecting not just a consumer right, but though we're not a medical company and though we don't actually diagnose, meaning I'm not telling you XYZ, I'm giving you the snapshot of what's going on, I still apply all FDA and HIPAA compliance so that people feel safe. And not only do they feel safe, they actually are protected by the stream of our workflow.
The tangibles are that report and the scan information. If I want to, can I share that information with my doctor?
I would hope that you do. So in our reports, I'm very disclaimer forward. As somebody that's not making claims, I can give people testimonials of people being blown away by our technology. But all of our reports do say educational, please consult, right? Any recommendations that we make are over the counter. So I'll tell you magnesium or manganese or boron or whatever the case may be that we see you're lacking in your minerals, but it's actually a tool to empower you to have better conversations about your health. I'll give a very simple example. One of our great demographics is women over the age of 35. I happen to be a Generation X person myself, and I know every woman of my generation is either already in or about to head into menopause, and hormones are not the same for everybody, meaning we all have the same hormones, but what you're producing or not producing might be different than the person standing next to you. And if I can give you an empowerment, so I can give you a snapshot of what's happening in a given real-time situation, when you are speaking with your clinician, doctor, specialist, you can have a better understanding. So maybe you can have a better engagement conversation and outcome. So my answer is absolutely. We're not an elimination tool. I would never say you don't wear your wearables. I say that I can give you a better snapshot right now, and that can give you collective data over a month. I would never tell you not to get labs, but I can tell you that blood that might take 10 days to get processed and back to you is not the same blood in your body at that exact second in time that it's being read to you because it's cycled a couple thousand times. So getting a snapshot of your well-being right now is very topical and very novel to how you can take your daily decisions. What do I eat? What supplements do I take? Where is my exercise? How do I get better sleep? And then in the totality of what you're doing in your protocols for your health and your wellness, absolutely work with clinicians and get labs and use your wearables. This is another personal opportunity for you to engage what it is that you're looking to accomplish in your health goals.
We're speaking with Alexander B. Fredericks. He is a growth engineer and co-founder of ToneWell. Alex, do you use this? Do you use ToneWell?
I absolutely use ToneWell. lifestyle. It's how I got to where we are. I am in my 50s. I'm a very active person. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I, like everybody else, have the stressors of the world. And when I get up in the morning, I'd like to make practical decisions. So I use it as much as I can. I use it when I feel like I'm a little run down. And what am I run down from? Is it a pathogen and a virus, or is it am I low in vitamin D, which is very interesting. So just to get to a broad band here, if you were to ever say to somebody, I don't have the bandwidth for that, or that didn't resonate with me, or you better watch your tone when you talk to me, you're speaking in frequencies, and I don't think people appreciate that enough. So the other side of that is, if that's how you speak about things, that means that how you're speaking has those things. So the entirety of what you are, whether it's a torn meniscus, too much vitamins, not enough hydration, XYZ minerals, whatever it might be, those are being broadcast when you speak. Everything in your nervous system and your physiology and how it operates is broadcast in the wavelength that you speak out. So getting a notion of that in a snapshot allows me, as my person, to make certain adjustments. What supplements am I taking? It's, I feel like I have a cold coming on. I actually did it this morning, and I ended up taking oregano oil, which is something that I take, but it's not the most pleasant thing to take, so I only take it when I really need it. And when I did my reading this morning, it actually showed that I have a little bit of a cold coming on. Very simple. And I decided to be proactive about it, right? And that's really the power here, is how can you be proactive in your life?
So just to be clear, you're saying that maybe you can't diagnose a torn meniscus per se, but you can say there's something happening, with tendons and ligaments. Is that what this can do?
It absolutely can do. It's a little bit on the, I can't believe that you're able to see that. And so when people push back, and I hope that they do, they say, well, how do you know? And my answer all the time is funny. I actually don't know anything. I was a philosophy major in college and have a business of marketing. But what I can tell you is what shows up. And that's the interesting thing. So funny enough is that if you had and I deal with a lot of peak performance athletes, it was how we kind of dialed this in before I went to a broader market. And athletes would come back and be like, wow, how is it showing that my shoulder is messed up, or I had an L1 injury, or my knee? And my answer is, well, if your spinal cord is like the garden hose and it's running up and down and there's a kink in it, you're going to find that kink because water's still coming out, just not the pressure that it should be. And everything that is inside of your body, the system that you are, is a closed loop system. So it all radiates a diagnostic that you can go out like plugging your car in when you take it to the mechanic. Funny enough, your systems can very much be looked at. So yeah, we can show up and say to you, your L this or your shoulder or your neck. I have neck injuries from jiu-jitsu, and every time that I do one, it tells me that I better go do neck exercises. Funny enough, I do the exercises that my recommendation engine recommends to me.
Super fascinating. I am just so fascinated by this. So you mentioned perimenopausal and menopausal women. You mentioned athletes. Who else is your target audience for this?
So first and foremost, our core audience rolling out is women 35 and above. I find them to be exceedingly undervalued and not spoken to in individual terms.
Oh my gosh, you just won so many listeners over with that statement in and of itself.
People are spoken to in such broad markets that, like, you could be perimenopausal or menopausal and end up on something, and then, 3 years down the road have 3 other things going wrong with you. And that's just the way that buckets work, everybody in one bucket. So that's kind of our first rollout. And then men 45 and above, right, have different issues than men 20 to 35. Executive travelers we're having a boom with, because to be honest with you, if you get on and off airplanes multiple times a month, you might want to check not just obviously the pathogens or diseases or what have you, but more importantly, your hydration level, your mineral levels, what's going on with you, your stress levels. All of these things show up in your frequency. And then outside of that, like, I have one of our very early investors is a mother of 4 that's also an executive, and her first thing to me was, Alex, I'm going to use this because I'm tired of my children lying to me about being sick. Right? I was like, here you go. Like, go crazy. But the reality is, anybody that's looking to have a better relationship with themselves, which is what I say all the time. Like, my goal is to help you understand you better, and that's really where we are. So my answer like most product people, it's for everyone. But the reality is that everybody can use it, from infant all the way through the elderly, because everybody gets something different. My father just had his gallbladder removed a week and a half ago, and he's out of hospital and recovering, and he's on a great regimen. He went to an amazing hospital to do it. But I even had him do one yesterday, because there are subtones, should we say, that I can help you support. And when we got his readout, I brought it to one of our doctor that we work with, and he said, I would suggest that we use these other supplements to support what he's doing, not to change, not to correct, but to support. And that, for me, my father is 89 years of age. Like I just said, just had his gallbladder removed, and I feel like I can now participate a bit in trying to help him be healthier. So my answer is anybody that's looking to have a better relationship with themselves.
Okay, and I have other questions for you, but let's get the business side of things out of the way. This is software, correct? It's not hardware?
It is software, yeah.
Is it a subscription?
It is not at the moment. So at the moment, we are doing scans of 1 and scans of 3 so that people can be engaged with it and understand that. Our next level out will be not just a subscription model, but as well as we're working with a cohort of affiliate practitioners. There are a lot of people that are MDs and PhDs and naturopaths and things of that nature that begin using it in their practice. Could you imagine if you're doing telemedicine and right beforehand somebody did one of these, and you can not just see the back-end data, which is what we give to our practitioners, but the person has already received a report, so you can have a genuine conversation. So we're building there. I honestly, we are fresh out of the gate with our MVP, with our basic rollout. We are about a month into being publicly available. So I'm not trying to run down the hill. We're trying to give real value to our customers. And as opposed to saying, here's a subscription, you're never going to come back, but I'm going to ding you every month for the subscription, we're actually doing it one scan at a time right now so people can engage. Our reports are very robust, but most importantly in them, they say, this is what you should do for the next 14 days. We recommend that you eat like this, sleep like this, those type of things. And that's where we're headed.
Okay. And so what are the technical requirements if someone wants to do it? I'm assuming they have to have a smartphone.
The technical requirement at this moment is that they are able to record a voice file, probably from their phone or computer, that goes into an email that comes to us directly. Okay. In about 60 days from now, it will just be hyperlink, but to your previous question about consumer safety data, that's the bridge that we're building, because it's very important to me that if Jennifer Smith shows up, that Jennifer Smith's information does not go anywhere further than our engagement. And I can't do that just on a live link to begin with. In 60 days, we'll have no more file that you need to record and send to me. But right now, you need to be able to record a file and send it. Okay. And Alex, what is the website? It is ToneWell.co, ToneWell.co. Okay. So I'm going to ask a broadcast question. So obviously, I'm a broadcaster, and I probably spend at least 10 minutes in the morning on my way into work talking so that my voice is ready for the morning ahead. And, my voice on the radio is different from my voice when I'm talking to my children, depending upon what my emotion is at the time, or my dogs. I have a high-pitched voice when I'm talking to my pets and a much lower voice when I'm on the air. That being said, can I fake it? Can I force a smile, talk into ToneWell, and let you think that I am in 100% perfect health? My answer to you is kind of. Okay, so in our informational set of how we tell you how to record, I very specifically tell you not to read anything, because reading is thinking and thinking is not speaking, okay? Mm-hmm. So probably you could fake your score that way. Secondly, yes, if I put on the merry band of pranksters voice, I'll probably come out with a different answer. One of the things that we do provide is what we call a coherence score, which is the only thing that's 1 to 100. Everything else is actually not as objective to that. And in your coherence score, it's like, how in tuned are you with yourself? Yeah, I'm confident that you could lie detector your way through that, meaning if you're a professional, you're sure you could throw it off. However, the reason that we do 30 seconds, and one of the many tests and studies and double blinds that have been done, one most specifically about bioacoustic resonance that came out of the NIH, is that within 25 to 30 seconds of speaking, you hit every A, E, I, O, U, and top and bottom of your vocal range. So a professional like you that has two voices, or like a singer like Michael Jackson's voice wasn't Michael Jackson's voice, he put that on, so to speak. Yeah, I'm confident that you'd be lying to yourself. Right. Yes, completely possible. So, but what we ask is people to be themselves so that so they can participate. Right. Right.
So I was thinking more along the lines of the executive who you were talking about before, who wanted to find out if her children were sick. So, could they talk into it and be like, "Oh, Alex, good morning. I'm having a bad day."
So what's very interesting is that it's funny. So people say, "Well, what should I say?" And my answer is like, whatever you want, because nobody's listening. Nobody listens. There is no person other than the decibel. Okay, that was a clean recording versus, wow, there was something wrong there. So the words don't matter. And if you're faking your voice that way, it's funny enough that the frequencies are still there. The tones are still there. So, no, that way you couldn't. But if you were a professional ventriloquist that has a secondary voice, yeah, you're probably not going to get the cleanest throw.
As a user of this technology yourself, what have the biggest surprises been for you personally, if you're willing to share?
Oh, my God, absolutely. So it's the things. So for me, I obviously know everything that's wrong with me, right? But when I talk to it, I had an eye injury many years ago from combat sports, and it shows up on this scan, and it tells me left eye. It doesn't say your eye. It says left eye, which is my eye, has an issue. And then it tells me, gives me some suggestions of what to do. It's those things. It's the physicality that you're like, why would my shoulder ever show up when I'm speaking? Because your nervous system, everything is wired together. And that's kind of the thing that we've lost touch with, which is why I keep saying building better relationships for yourself. People, and I'm very much in this, we forget that we're just move forward machine. It's why, unfortunately, NFL players get CTE, because your brain is routed just to keep moving. So if you get a TBI, a traumatic brain injury, and you don't do something about it, anybody that has a concussion, you've been told to rest. You weren't told to go do neurofeedback, great thing to do. You were told to rest. But does that fix the problem? Probably not. So it routes around it. So enough concussions, you end up with a syndrome. So I say that to say we've all kind of lost touch with that everything is routed together. It's why a ring on your finger can tell you what's going on with your heart variant or with your sleeping cadence, because your whole body is one machine. So I'm blown away constantly on the background, so to speak. Not the things in the foreground. We know the foreground things. Like, I lost my hair at 27. I know that, right? Like, these are things you know. But it's the background things that we forget about because you've just kept moving forward. And those things that you can address, the little nuanced things like, I take NAD. Great. Why? Because I was told to. Okay. But if I look at it in my body and my body says you have enough of it, do I need to keep taking that, or can I move on to the next support? And that's where I find this marvelous. And again, why I, as somebody that's been building things for 30 years, is like, no, I'm going to put my all of my apples into this cart. This is the cart that we're putting it into, because the possibility is endless. And as we evolve in our types of reports and the things people are looking at right now, as I said, we're very much focused on hormones, both men and women. What are you doing for testosterone versus what are you doing for estrogen? Funny, they come off the exact same chain of how your body produces them. It's what do you need or not need as a man or as a woman. So it's endless for us.
Alex, you mentioned NAD. Do the investors in ToneWell, or the company that owns ToneWell, or whomever, have any vested interest in any supplements? So I guess the concern would be, if so, is ToneWell recommending supplements because there's a vested interest, some monetary interest from the ownership?
My answer to you is no. As somebody that has been in the wellness space as an agent, as an agency for years, I have legitimately worked with every supplement, peptide, whatever under the sun, so we have an understanding of them. But the answer is no. We have no affiliations with any other a company and or product that would be recommended. I will say, though, that our recommendation engine is based off of two things. One, your standard, if I could go to PubMed and put in, I have this, what should I take? And two, us, a little more importantly, two of our partners, as I said, are in the medical field. One of them happens to be my wife, who is a nurse of 20 plus years and is a certified hormone specialist. And the other one is a gentleman named Dr. Bear Walker that has 40 plus years of biometric specialization And our base of our recommendations is, if I took a look at his business, which I did, for the last X amount of years, what are your top 30 things that you suggest to people? Because he's a naturopath, not a subscription writer, though he's an MD, he's a naturopath. And we took those best practices and made them our recommendations. That's where we started.
Fascinating conversation. ToneWell.co is the website for those who want more information. Alex Fredericks, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us, the co-founder of ToneWell. It's been our honor.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
And thank you so much for listening. This interview has been edited slightly to accommodate time issues. We did not take out any of the substance of my interview with Alex Fredericks. For more information and for a transcript of this interview, you can visit us at WOKV.com.
You've been listening to Jax Journal, a production of News 104.5 WOKV.
Engines rev, are you listening?
It's that time of year again. Happy Honda Days, where you can drive in a Honda wonderland of your own with a great offer on a fun-to-drive new Accord, Civic, CR-V, or HR-V. Hurry into your local Honda dealer and experience the wonder of Happy Honda Days with a great deal on your favorite Honda today.
Driving in a Honda wonderland.
See dealer for financing details. Exclude Civic Si and Type R.